Hello and welcome to Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. Malaysia has a new king. Sultan Ibrahim Sultan Iskandar has been sworn in as the country's 17th monarch. Sultan Ibrahim is also one of the richest men in Malaysia. He'll be the king for the next 5 years under a rotational monarchy system. Malaysia is the only country in the world with a rotational monarchy, under which 9 state rulers take turns being king. The monarch's position is mostly ceremonial, but in the past few years, the king has been forced to play a more prominent role by intervening during political crises. Sultan Ibrahim's predecessor had to utilize rarely used royal discretionary powers 3 times to appoint a prime minister after government collapses and the country's first ever hung parliament in 2022. Zan is our correspondent in Kuala Lumpur. He tells us more about what to expect during the new king's reign.
The country of Malaysia has appointed and coronated its 17th king. Now, Malaysia has a unique system.
The king is elected by the Conference of Rulers, which comprises the hereditary rulers of the 9 Malay states, with only those 9 rulers allowed to stand. In practice, the position rotates among the 9 rulers, so the election isn't exactly competitive either.
Each ruler will take turns becoming the king of the country of Malaysia every 5 years. On the 31st of January 2024, the 17th king was appointed, and he is Sultan Ibrahim from the southern state of Johor. Coincidentally, the same state where I was born and raised. That's where I'm from. Now, the outgoing king, or the previous king, Sultan Abdullah from Pahang, he was known to be a king that is very kind, very close to the people. You can see lots of videos and photos and comments on social media of him, having all kinds of activities that brings him closer to the people. You'll see videos of him, if he stumbles upon like people outside, like a crowd, he would spontaneously buy them food or treat them to a lunch or a dinner. There's also a lot of footage of him helping out people who he comes across, like for example, if there are accidents on the road, he will step down, he will help people out. He's known to be a very approachable king. Now, the new king, Sultan Ibrahim from Johor, he also has a history of being quite close to the people. Now, when he was the crown prince of Johor, he started something known as the Kembara Mahkota Johor, where he would ride he loves bikes, big bikes and cars, and he would ride with his friends and family around the state of Johor, stopping in all the small towns and villages just to meet with people and to interact with, I guess, his subjects in Johor. Now, a lot of people on social media are also asking, hey, now that he's king, is he going to continue that tradition, but on a national level? Is he going to drive around Malaysia, stopping at all the different towns and states and meeting with the people? Well, it's going to be interesting to see.
What can the king actually do? Well, Malaysia is a constitutional monarchy, with the king as the head of state in a largely ceremonial role, and the prime minister as the head of government. Malaysian politics is based on the Westminster system, meaning the king appoints a prime minister who can command a majority in the elected lower house of parliament. As such, the king ends up playing a crucial role during political crises.
Now, the role is mostly ceremonious in Malaysia. I mean, we are a parliamentary democracy. But with that being said, the previous king, Sultan Abdullah, during his reign, there was, several political turmoils when we had to switch. We switched governments, we switched prime ministers, and to be honest, a lot of Malaysians looked towards him as the king to help solve the problem. And he did have discussions with different political leaders and all that, and eventually the problem was solved. So we do see the king as a symbol of hope for the country. Now with the appointment of the new Agong, or the new king, we can see the current Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, he has a good relationship with both kings, Sultan Abdullah from Pahang and also Sultan Ibrahim from Johor. So it's going to be interesting to see what the next 5 years is going to be in Malaysia.
As Zan was saying, Malaysia's new king, Sultan Ibrahim, is pretty close with the current Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim. Now, the monarch isn't supposed to meddle in politics unless there's government turmoil. But Sultan Ibrahim is pretty famous for being outspoken about the country's political issues, such as corruption, which begs the question, is the Instagram-savvy royal going to be more hands-on in government affairs? Now, some analysts believe Sultan Ibrahim will wield more influence on domestic and foreign policy. This is partly due to his extreme power and wealth from his massive business empire. Bloomberg puts his family's assets at $5.7 billion. That's right, $5.7 billion, but estimates their true wealth is much more. But despite that affluence, the monarch is seen as a man of the people and beloved in his home state of Johor, which borders Singapore. The motorcycle-riding, Ferrari-driving king is extremely front-facing and media-savvy, giving an insight into royal life with millions of followers on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Sultan Ibrahim Iskandar wants more than just the largely ceremonial role that the royals have in this parliamentary democracy. As the ruler of Johor State, which borders Singapore, Sultan Ibrahim has pursued his own personal business activities in addition to his official duties. And that's helped him to amass an estimated family fortune of at least $5.7 billion, according to Bloomberg calculations. Now he wants more say than any other Malaysian monarch. He has vowed to check the power of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and other elected lawmakers.
All right, next story. Fancy owning the colonial-style house in Yangon, where former Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi lived? Well, it's about to go under the hammer. A court has ruled that the villa must go to auction after Suu Kyi and her brother failed to resolve a decades-long dispute over the lakeside villa. The Nobel Peace Prize winner spent 15 years under house arrest there until 2012. After her release, she moved to the capital, Naypyidaw, to attend parliament. The house became recognizable worldwide after Suu Kyi hosted high-profile meetings there, including with then U.S. President Barack Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She also gave speeches to crowds of supporters over the metal gates during her house arrest. The auction will reportedly be held on March 20th, and bidding starts at $90 million. Meanwhile, Suu Kyi remains in detention. Her whereabouts are unknown. Whether or not Elon Musk is still the richest man in the world, Tesla's agreement with the CEO is certainly the largest compensation deal ever for an executive. His salary, worth a mere $56 billion, yup, $56 billion, has been ruled as excessive by a judge in Delaware. Well, you don't say, huh? Needless to say, our favorite spaceman has taken to his beloved X, writing "Never incorporate your company in the state of Delaware." 2 hours later, @Elon Musk recommended incorporating in Nevada or Texas if you prefer shareholders to decide matters. Clearly, this judgment of excessive pay was still bugging him, so he resorted to a favorite tactic: let's have a vote. He sure loves his polls. And the last time we checked, it seemed to almost have agreed on the move to Texas. But of course, Musk is well known for harboring a grudge. And he has also posted this Wall Street Journal link headline: Delaware is trying hard to drive away corporations. All right, reduce, reuse, and recycle are not just buzzwords. They're essential weapons in the war on waste. Such refuse not only impacts our environment, but also health. As we come to the end of Zero Waste Month, Lara sat down with an expert on the subject.
January is more than just the beginning of a new year. It's also internationally recognized as Zero Waste Month, a time when eco-warriors worldwide intensify their efforts to encourage global solidarity against waste. In honor of it, we have delved into the world of zero waste, gaining insights from Dennis Uyat, an environmental educator and zero waste consultant.
Single-use plastic is a huge source of plastic pollution in the world, where there's a Great Pacific Garbage Patch, where plastic is accumulating. It's about twice the size of Texas in the Pacific Ocean. And I think there's about a garbage truck a minute of plastic entering the ocean every single day, and every minute of every day.
Zero waste is at the heart of the push for a sustainable future, Uyat argues. And this transformative journey starts with an ideological shift.
When we're thinking about materials like plastic or metal or glass, not only are they materials, but these are also ideas. So when we think about what it is we're actually processing and dealing with on a day-to-day level, the most powerful tool of zero waste is really rethinking our entire approach, rethinking, the day-to-day, like in our lifestyles, is a good way to get into zero waste.
The key to that mindset makeover is education.
It's really about building consciousness. Building consciousness requires knowledge. A big part of implementing a zero waste program is first setting up the ability to separate materials, and then making sure that once it's separated at a source, that it can then be transferred to a facility or a place where it can be processed.
I've noticed that you work with different generations, like from school kids to international delegations. Do you get a sense that the next generation is more environmentally conscious or more green and more responsible than baby boomers or maybe Gen X?
Working with children was really enlightening for me. They were very attentive, especially 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. They really were passionate and really wanted to learn about how to sort their materials. Whereas when I was at university and working with communities and older people, there's a lot more resistance because people already have this idea that they know what they're doing.
This resistance, Uyat says, stems from misconceptions surrounding zero waste. When they hear zero waste, they often think zero waste means no waste at all.
Yes.
That sounds like a very strict lifestyle for many.
The first thing is that zero waste is an aspirational goal. It's not always 100%. What is often sort of difficult to come to is that it is actually something that's very achievable. It's easy to actually get to 70, 80, 90% diversion at an institutional level. Diversion meaning away from landfills and incinerators.
Incinerators, dumps, landfills, and burning facilities. Well, they are usually located near the most vulnerable communities.
In 2018, China passed a national legislation called National Sword. And what it did was it reduced the contamination of a recyclable commodity from 4 to 6% or so to 0.5%. So it was an effective ban on global north commodities in the US and Europe. Basically, the message that China was sending to the world was, we don't want to be the world's dump anymore. I believe Vietnam and Indonesia passed their own sort of similar type of restrictions like China. Zero waste and these sort of global movements are sort of asking who is really responsible for the material that we're having to manage.
Uyat says achieving zero waste requires governments, businesses, and individuals to agree and come together. And that will pave the way for a cleaner, greener, and healthier planet to become a tangible reality.
60 years ago this month, director Stanley Kubrick's iconic movie Dr. Strangelove hit the silver screen. A story of a deranged American war-happy general who accidentally starts a process that could have seen Washington release a nuclear bomb on Russia. 6 decades on, some say the film is still relevant, what with the current state of US-Russia relations. The legendary Peter Sellers played 3 different roles, and the movie was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Dr. Strangelove is a mix of satire and seriousness that centers on an unhinged US general ordering a nuclear strike on Russia. This blunder sees American fighter planes enter Russian airspace. A strike is all but imminent. All that stands between Russia deploying their own doomsday machine is this conversation between Sellers, who plays President Merkin Muffley, and also his Russian counterpart, Dmitry Kisov.
You know how we've always talked about the possibility of something going wrong with the bomb. The bomb, Dmitry. The hydrogen bomb. Well, now, what happened is one of our base commanders, he had a sort of, well, he went a little funny in the head. You know, just a little funny. And he went and did a silly thing. Well, I'll tell you what he did. He ordered his planes to attack your country. Well, let me finish, Dmitry. Let me finish, Dmitri. Well, listen, how do you think I feel about it? Can you imagine how I feel about it, Dmitri? Why do you think I'm calling you? Just to say hello? Of course I like to speak to you. Of course I like to say hello. Not now, but any time, Dmitri. I'm just calling up to tell you something terrible has happened. It's a friendly call. Of course it's a friendly call. Listen, if it wasn't friendly, you probably wouldn't have even got it.
Yep, world leaders, they're unhinged too. And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. See you soon.